Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. This is Caitlin Weeks. I'm back with Jordan Swain. We're doing another interview all about carnivore and keto. So this time we're talking to Jordan. She's from Jordan So Keto on Instagram. She's lost over 100 pounds with the keto diet, and she has a special approach she's going to talk about. And what we want to, so thank you, Jordan, for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
It's really fun to hear from different women and see how they and other keto-ish carnivores and see how they implement their approach and hear their story. So I know Texas is a big land of barbecue, so you're lucky about that. That helps.
Yes.
Keto. But how did you start keto, and tell us a little bit about your story.
So in May 2018, I had a pelvic ultrasound done of my ovaries, and I got to see them for the first time on screen. I already had been diagnosed with PCOS, at least, 5 years prior to this ultrasound. I just had never seen the disease inside my body for real. So I saw that. My husband and I just got married, started talking about having kids, everything. And as soon as I saw that ultrasound, any dreams I had of having children just kind of blew away. It was just gone. I just felt like it was gone. And so when I started my weight loss journey in June, so it took me about a month to kind of figure out what I wanted to do.
You were like,
yeah, I was kind of just researching, what's the best diet for PCOS. And then I kept coming across keto. And then I saw the keto diet was something that was very beneficial for women with PCOS. And I saw Dr. Barry's video talking about how keto is the best thing possible for PCOS. And so, after I watched that video, that was it. I just hit the ground running. And yeah.
I'm sold.
Yes.
That's awesome.
My husband, he's over like, what are you doing?
I had to tell mine, like, go be quiet somewhere. So was it easy at first, or how did you implement it, and how did you get started? Because it's so hard to, even though you might read and you're like, I'm going to do this, but then there's the real life of telling your friends and family, and then the day-to-day of I can't have birthday cake, or I can't have this, or whatever.
Right. So I got started, for me, it was easy because as soon as I had that ultrasound done and the reality kind of set in of what state my health was in, for me, there was no other option to keep messing around, So when I started keto, I started by making fat bombs. I ate probably 6 times a day, how everyone says you should eat, but that was the only way that I could transition over. And then within 2 to 3 weeks, I was eating down to 3 meals a day. And then eventually, I think it was a good month and a half to 2 months in, I started actually practicing intermittent fasting. And I would fast for 14 hours and be like, this is so cool, and I would track it and everything. And so yeah, it's kind of something that, I started from a very basic perspective of taking diet norms that the standard American diet has brought upon us, and kind of let it evolve into what it is now.
That's awesome. And you were smoking, right?
Yes, I quit smoking too. On June 11th, 2018, I started keto, and I quit smoking cigarettes like cold turkey.
Wow. So, that's really hard to change all that at one time.
That was very hard. I would say but I don't know, for me, and it might not be the case for everybody, but when you just kind of hit rock bottom, sometimes you're like, I never want to see that ever again. So for me, there was no option of I can smoke when I'm drinking, or if I go out with friends, I can smoke, or, no. I smoked for over 8 years, there's no option to go back. So.
Now, you must have had some supportive people in your life to help you through all that.
Well, babe, sorry, there's lots of dogs around here. My husband actually has been the number one supporter of my life. obviously he supports my life, but like my keto lifestyle and everything, he was supportive from day one, because I think he knew exactly how much it all meant to me to, just change my lifestyle. And he watched me shrink from almost 300 pounds to now I'm like hovering anywhere from like 180 to 175 right now. And, he's watched me shrink all that way. And then he ended up starting keto 6 months later. So, yeah.
Well, that makes it easier when you're making meals and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm. He doesn't have a choice. But then one day he just looked at me and he was like, I want to eat keto too. So I was like, all right, great.
I mean, with having kids, it takes two. So both people need to be healthy. And I think people overlook the male component sometimes.
Yeah, for real. So, I mean, I like to think now that we both have gotten ourselves, on the path to health, so that like when the day comes that we do have kids, and when, the day comes that we're in that, like you're saying, like that day-to-day life thing of, they don't ever think about the male component, you know what I mean? Like we're both going to be in a much healthier state doing that than we would be, had I stayed the same weight and, just smoked a bunch of cigarettes.
Yeah. I mean, you really broke out of the mold, because that's just so common. You see that, you see people everywhere that are 300 pounds and smoking,
Yep.
Especially in the South,
Yes.
where, I'm living in Tennessee and Texas. It's about the same, so.
Just a little more hot.
Well, it's pretty hot here too.
Yeah.
So kind of tell us like what you did with keto at first and how it's changed, like what has anything changed, so you started doing the intermittent fasting more, and then anything else that you've changed?
So when I first started keto, I was very much like dependent on like having fat bombs, having diet sodas, kind of like, I guess more what people call like dirty keto. For me, I was looking to make this a lifestyle. So if I were to just cut out all diet, like all soda whatsoever, and only drink water and everything like that, to me, that would have just felt too restrictive and I wouldn't have stuck to it. So I did what I had to do to make it work for me. But yeah, I used to do a little bit more like complex meals, I would say. Like I would do like Mississippi pot roast, the one that's got like all the little peppers and stuff in it, and it's kind of tangy, a little, whatever. And I would do that with like mashed cauliflower and like a big salad and stuff. And, I used to be, I guess you could say, more veg heavy in my approach to keto. And as time has gone on, I've found that I feel much better in my, keto way of eating very meat heavy keto. So like, as in meat heavy, meaning like 90% of the food I'm eating is meat. And then the other 10% is like avocado and pickles. For me, I don't know, I guess I like to call myself a reluctant carnivore. So, but yeah, I mean, and I don't want people to think that just because you do keto, you have to do intermittent fasting. I know you probably don't believe that either. But it's important to kind of get down the eating part first. And then if you want to incorporate fasting, then okay, great. Just do it a little bit at a time. Don't like go from eating 3 meals a day, really nice keto food, whatever, to then all of a sudden like, oh, I'm going to do a 24-hour fast, because you're going to just shock your body. You have to gradually work your way into it. So that's kind of, once I really got into the swing of intermittent fasting and keto and everything, I kind of got more into the whole realm of like, taking my keto from being very complicated and very veg heavy to slowly I moved into eating more, a lot more meat. So.
Well, you're preaching to the choir.
Yeah.
So I think when people start out on keto, they're more like, they're Googling all the recipes and they're doing like, oh, what am I going to make? I'm going to make this kind of pizza or this kind of, chicken pot pie or whatever.
Right.
That. And I think, and then of course the treats and the desserts. And then I think as they get maybe more serious about it, they realize they don't need all that stuff. And that's kind of what happened to you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, well, because I'm a chef, right? So I know how to make like anything. You're married to a chef, you know how it is. He can whip up anything, and it's like no big deal. So for me, the whole cooking part was like easy. I mean, of course, I had to look up recipes because I was like, how do I make keto this or keto that? You know, like what's 90-second bread? Like, you know what I mean? So it was definitely like a little bit of a transition, but I would say like a lot of the times what I see with people is you start very complex, and probably like for most people, they start off pretty dirty. So like, you know, for me, it was the diet sodas. It was like, you know, all the dips and like everything. I never went for the low carb tortillas. That was never an option for me, just because I found that it could just probably be too much of a trigger. So I knew for me what was gonna be too much and what I could deal with, and the things that I could make, you know, work for me.
Well, I think with the low carb tortillas, I mean, I see a lot of people, I mean, PCOS is, I think it's an autoimmune disease.
Yeah.
You know, it's along those lines, and it's like, you don't need to be eating gluten.
No.
Like, and I think that's a big mistake. A lot of people think, well, just because it says low carb on it, it doesn't mean it's healthy. And
yeah.
I mean, so that's good that you didn't get into that.
Yeah.
So many people, are just terrified about their macros and their high protein and the gluconeogenesis and, and the people, and I used to be too, because I always liked a lot of meat, a lot of protein, but I would restrict myself to have like 4 ounces of ground beef or something. And then I would eat like 27 fat bombs, because I was still hungry. And so it's like, robbing Peter to pay Paul. It doesn't work. And then, you think, oh, if I just keep my protein down and my carbs down, it'll work. But it didn't work for me until I really started to cut. So how did you, I started to increase my meat and then drop all the treats and stuff. And so how did you get away from that? How did you break out of that thinking?
So when I first started, I think for a lot of people, when you very first start and you're looking at your macros, I think it is a good idea to use that as a guide. I would always see okay, I'm going to hit my protein goal. I'm going to hit my fat goal. I'm going to, hit my carb goal. And I kind of had to do that for a while. And then I started hearing about people talking about, oh, if you eat too much protein, it's gluconeogenesis and it's going to turn into sugar and all this stuff. I actually, side note, had to ban someone from my Facebook page because they kept arguing with me yesterday that the amount of protein that I ate from my breakfast was too much and that it would just turn into sugar. And I was like, goodbye.
Yeah.
So,
your results speak for themselves.
Yeah. So, basically what I tell people now is fat and protein to me are pretty much the same thing. They're going to satiate very similarly. I would not go for lean protein because that's really not going to give you any of that satiety. But don't be afraid to eat if you're truly hungry, and you'll know if you're hungry at the end of a meal and you're like, where's the rest? Don't be afraid to go back for a couple more pieces of bacon. Don't be afraid to go back for another burger patty. Don't be, just don't restrict the carbs. Don't restrict the protein and the fat. That's the worst thing you could do. If you restrict the protein, especially, I think, then that's when a lot of people run into oh, I'm losing hair and, my nails are really bitter and things like that. You've got to have your protein. Animal-based protein is the most nutrient-dense thing, I think, on this planet. Obviously, grass-fed, grass-finished is best, but if all you can afford is some Walmart steaks, that's better than, buying a pint of ice cream.
Yeah.
So,
and ground chuck is pretty tasty.
Love ground chuck.
So you just started experimenting when you started hearing about people doing carnivore and stuff. You just started kind of changing it up and seeing how it affected you and stuff.
So I saw, a lot about Dr. Barry. I follow him. He's like my favorite person. Him and Nisha, they're great. And I saw a lot of what they were doing, and they were eating more of a meat-heavy keto. I don't really think that they mess with avocados too much, but basically, like, I started to see,
Thing.
yeah. But like, I started to see like the benefits of, really cutting the carbs even more. And so there was, so like I talked on my Instagram. I have no idea if you've seen it, but like, I'm back on my like weight loss thing. And basically for me, what that means is just, not restricting myself to where I feel hungry, but just kind of tracking that to see what, feels right for me. And then keeping my carbs ultra low. Like if I go above 15 grams of carbs, then I know I'm going to feel it the next day, kind of thing. So I just started to see the benefit of really focusing on meat and protein, cutting the carbs back. And I mean, like 4 months ago in April, before I kind of had to put, press pause on my weight loss, I felt the leanest I've ever felt in my entire life. And I was going home and eating at least a pound of ground beef every night. You know what I mean? And maybe a little bit of avocado, maybe a little bit of pickle in there, but that's really not going to be any more than like 10 carbs. But really putting the emphasis on meat, I think, is the most important thing. It may not be true for everybody, though. I will say, like, some people, they have a higher carb threshold, so they can do a couple extra carbs. But like for me, I can't. I could have like a salad every other week and satisfy that craving or something. But other than that, like, no, all the food I eat has to be meat.
I think it's so hard because I was in the paleo sphere for so long, and coming from there, it's everything is veg heavy, and vegetables are the base, and
right.
And then you smush that together with keto, and it's like you're so brainwashed about the veggies being so important. I did eat nose to tail and all that,
right?
And I was eating high fat, and but it was so hard for me because I don't think I cut my carbs to like 20 carbs, but it was like so confusing. Do I do net carbs? Do I do total carbs? And I just was so brainwashed into thinking that, that vegetables, and for some people, maybe they're fine. But for me, I was bloated all the time, constipated all the time. I was miserable. And so I think unless I went zero carb, I couldn't have a little bit of vegetables. You know what I mean? I was like, I wanted a whole stalk of broccoli, a whole head of cauliflower, a big, romaine salad, like the size of, a big serving. I love that stuff,
Yeah.
So it was so much easier it was just so much more simple when I didn't have to worry about the vegetables and I didn't have to worry about the carbs at all. It's just, there's no carbs. It's just nothing to count. It was just, for me, I'm just like an all or nothing black and white person. I was just like,
yeah.
So
it's really simple. It really kind of simplifies everything. You just, when I think about dinner, I think about, well, what kind of meat am I going to eat? And I'll just decorate it. Like I'll just, like I said, throw some, yeah.
Now, what about, now, is it harder that you've lost all this weight? Is it harder now? Because I
harder
feel
now for
to keep losing, because I feel like when people are always, when they're really heavy, the weight comes off really easy with Atkins or low carb or keto. It always seems like it works really fast, and they don't have to worry so much. When I first was in college, I did Atkins, and I lost like 20 pounds in a month, and because I was 240 pounds, so it was like, oh, this is easy, But I thought
it almost kind of makes sense, for your body. Like my first month on keto, I lost like, I think 18 pounds, but I was almost 300 pounds. So, my body had a lot more weight to lose. And that's another thing. Like, I don't want to see people like, I mean, we're all going to do it from time to time. We're human. But like when people compare themselves, like I've had people message me and they're like, I didn't lose 30 pounds my first month of keto. Am I doing it wrong? And then I'm like, where did you come up with that? Like, why do you think that that's like something, especially, and then I'll be like, well, what was your starting weight? They'll be like, oh, like 130. I'm like, really? I mean, not like that, but you know what I mean? Like something like that's a very healthy weight. And they're like, I didn't lose 30 pounds. It's like, really?
Yeah.
You're
like,
not going to lose weight like that.
If you've never been over 200 pounds, like, I don't want to hear from you.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're talking about. Yeah.
But pretty much like as far as like losing weight now, I know it's going to take a little bit longer just because I've kind of maintained my weight loss for the last 4 months. I had, a lot of stress going on. It was just one of those decisions I had to make to, okay, I'm going to stop the weight loss, focus on life and whatever I have to do. Sorry, my dog's hungry. But one second. You got to feed him, babe. Anyway, so I know that now it's going to take a little bit longer just because I'm still overweight for my height, but like I'm starting from a better weight now, and my body has been pretty comfortable here. So I've pretty much accepted the fact it's just going to take longer.
Now, how tall are you?
5'3".
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm 5'8". So I always had a little more places to go.
Yeah.
But my sister's like 6 weeks, or she's like 5'11".
Is she?
Yeah.
Her kids are so cute.
They're the best.
Oh, they're so cute.
So, like, what are your goals now?
Well, my goals now are for, so one, I want to get down to my dream goal weight of being like anywhere from 145 to 150 pounds. So I've got about 25, 30 pounds to go. So I'm looking forward to that very much. And also I am going to start seeing my OBGYN more and seeing what, steps that my husband and I need to take to, hopefully be able to have a baby at one point. I like to put myself in the category of I'm not one of those women who did keto for a month and got pregnant. I'm not one of those women. That's just it. I've done
comparing yourself to other
right, exactly. Like I'm not one of them, but I'm trying to be as open as I can with that part of my journey because, when I go back to my why, I go back to when I was getting that ultrasound and I saw my ovaries for the first time. So this is kind of the next leg,
I think that's what's so important is to remind yourself when you have those hard days and you have those social functions that are very challenging, that you have to go back to that reason why you're doing it. Mine is to heal my hashimotos, hopefully someday, which is getting better and better. And I've seen, big improvements on carnivore.
That's so cool.
Fastest. I think everything I've done has totally helped me. I think I would have been, bedridden by now if I wasn't doing all the things that I was doing.
Right.
But, so you think you might have a thyroid problem, or you don't know, or where are you at with that?
So I have hypothyroidism that's been confirmed by like a couple of doctors that I've seen. Currently waiting on insurance to go through so I can, take on that part of it too. But I do have hypothyroidism. Both my mom and dad have that. But I will say, like, I think that even that part of me has improved drastically since just doing keto. And I'm sure if I, if one day something crazy happened and I was like, I want to go strict carnivore, like similar to like how do you do, I'm sure that maybe I would see like a lot more drastic improvements in it. But just diet alone has helped. So
yeah, well, cutting out the grains and the gluten, that's a huge thing. And just eating more nutrient dense foods. All of that is really stopping smoking. I mean, all of that is
Yeah.
helping your thyroid. I mean, I would be surprised if it doesn't just go away on its own, especially if you catch it early and stuff. Like if I had to do over again, I might not go on medication if I knew. I mean, I was feeling so bad. I don't regret like going on medication because
Yeah.
I was not able to function at all.
Right.
But if I had known all that you can do with your diet, that I might have, maybe just gone on it for a little while or something like that. But
Yeah.
so, well, I'm sure when you get, all your tests and everything, I bet it's mild and, you may be able to not even, you may not even have to go on medication. So, but that is a big fertility piece. So you definitely want to.
Right. So that's, that's another piece of the puzzle here. So
Yeah, that is a big thing. I mean, because
yeah.
it runs so many of your bodily functions that you
Mm-hmm.
overlook that.
Absolutely.
So just tell us like your typical day of eating, what you eat in the morning or what time you start eating and, kind of your meal structure.
So I do intermittent fasting. I fast for about 20 hours a day. That usually is where I feel my best. So I don't start eating until like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And up until that point, I just drink water with some electrolytes. Sometimes I'll do like a little electrolyte mix. You can find them on Amazon and stuff. I really like the Key Nutrients one. So sometimes I'll do like 1 scoop of that in the morning just to get myself going and stuff. But other than that, I just have salt and water until 4 p.m. And then
You don't
normally,
You don't drink coffee?
No, I'm pretty caffeine sensitive. I kind of, during the middle of my weight loss journey, I started to realize that caffeine was not agreeing with me. So I have maybe like a cup of coffee a week just because caffeine is not my friend. So, yeah, I do that. And then when I eat, I'll eat like maybe a serving or two of pork rinds and like some sort of dip that I like or something, something pretty like low carb, like ultra low carb. Like I'm looking for my snack to have maybe 1 or 2 carbs in it, if any. And then after that, then I eat my big meal. So I guess you could say I do a modified OMAD, 1 meal a day type of eating. And
it's like a 4-hour window of.
yeah. And it's just, for me, it's just easier to like have a small snack and then have my meal. It's kind of like your appetizer.
Yeah. So are you home by then? Are you home when you're eating? Or because I mean, if you do OMAD, it's pretty serious. You can't just like eat one little thing and then be like, you don't want to do that on your break or something,
right.
like a 15-minute break,
So I am home when I eat my meal a day, because that's when, both my husband and I are home and, we can be with each other and everything. So for me, that just made the most sense. If I was going to eat 1 meal a day, it was going to be dinner.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, and pretty much a lot of what we eat is like burgers. So like burgers without the bun. I'll do like bacon cheeseburgers, mushroom Swiss burgers, any kind of variation on that, I do it. And then lots of eggs. I think I have chicken on the menu this week, which is weird because I don't normally go for chicken. And then I'll do like, just some ground beef with like eggs and cheese and stuff. I mean, my food's very, 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 for a chef, my food is very, very humble.
Was that hard to let go of that? Because I know for me, and I mean, I'm a food blogger for 10 years, so it's hard for me to not like make something exciting or something.
I mean, I think that, probably one of the most exciting meals I make is, I think you've seen on my Instagram, it's the egg chalupa dinner that I make. So it's like crispy cheese on the bottom with eggs cooked on top of it. And then, with the side of like ground beef.
Sort of.
Yeah, it's kind of like a tostada type of thing. And it's delicious. And, I think my food has gotten simpler with keto, but it's gotten more delicious. So for me, I'm fine with losing all the bells and whistles because you don't really need them anyway.
Now, how do you feel about the dairy?
Dairy, I love dairy. It doesn't seem to do anything to me yet, but I'm open to cutting it out. if I have to cut it out, I have to cut it out, you know. I want my body to be as healthy as it can be. So if I cut out dairy, that just means I get to eat more meat. Not a big deal.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Well, so where do you want to go, or where do you see, yourself in a year or something like that? Like, what are your goals with the rest of, keto and?
So my goals, I think, for the rest of the year and into a year from now, a year from now, I'd like to be at my goal weight. I don't think it's going to take that long, but if it does, it does. And, I'd like to have gotten further along on my fertility journey, if not already be pregnant at that point. And yeah, pretty much for the rest of the year, just focusing on optimal health. Whatever I have to do to make my body within my means as healthy as it possibly can be, not only for me, not only for my husband, for my whatever future children we have. So
your pups.
Yeah, my puppy.
So what do you want to tell people who are, maybe stuck or need some motivation or encouragement?
So remember your why. I tell people that all the time. They're like, man, I went off plan, or I can't stay on track for more than a week or two or something like that. And it's like, you gotta have a why. So your why could be something as simple as I want to wear a bikini and feel confident on the beach this summer. That's great. So remember that every time you go to a birthday party, every time you go to an event, every time you are faced with temptation, think about that. Is that food going to mean that much to you to take you further away from your goal? You know? And once you remember that, it's not worth it.
And I think sometimes the aesthetic goals maybe are going to take you as far as your goal, which is to have a family,
Right.
Or to not have another autoimmune disease, not get lupus or MS or something.
Right.
So sometimes those aesthetic goals, they run out of steam a little sooner than, I don't want to have a heart attack or something.
Right. So, if you're just starting out and you want to have that first, I think, goal in mind, aesthetic goals, I think, are great, because they're little, you know what I mean? They're kind of like a stepping stone. But then when you get to the real nitty gritty of it, go get a physical at your doctor's office and see what your numbers are. Get your A1C tested. Are you pre-diabetic? Do you know if you're pre-diabetic? You probably don't know. So, getting things run, see what's going on with your body, see where you're at, and then look up what those numbers mean. And then if it means something scary, oh, I'm pre-diabetic, I'm a type 2 diabetic, I have full-blown PCOS with no periods, no nothing, which is what I had. Anything of that nature, use that as your driving force to really push you forward. And for some people, though, they might be overweight and they just might not have any of those markers, but then it could be I don't want to have a heart attack when I'm 50. I want to be there for my family. I want to be there for my dog.
Yeah, well, 50% of people do have diabetes.
I know.
Probably a pretty good chance that even, and that doesn't have anything to do with being overweight. It could or it couldn't, it's
not always intertwined like that. Yeah.
I've always had really good, even when I was 20 pounds heavier, had super, blood work and everything because of the way I was eating. But, the doctor might say, oh, well, have this or that. And I was like, I know I don't, because I don't eat sugar and I don't eat this. And
for me, my A1C was a 5.3, which isn't that bad, but to me that was way too close to pre-diabetic. So, but now, the last A1C test I had run, it was 4.5. So, even that.
Yeah, you want to stay under 5 for sure. And I think, and the thing is, you can't really rely on your doctor for nutritional information. Maybe you can get the labs and stuff, but then take them home and read them.
Google them.
Yeah, ask some other people, or look for some. If Google doesn't suppress the information,
Mm-hmm. Reach out to people on social media. They'll help you out.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the big thing about it's community. I think that's been a big help for you, is finding the community online.
Yeah.
And that's so important, because when you're doing something and the people in your family or the people in your town are not doing it, it's really important to find that help.
I will say though too, like just with me eating keto, I have, not out of any pressure that I've given, almost my entire family eats keto now. So it was me, then my sister-in-law started doing it, then my mom started doing it, which has helped her menopause greatly. My husband then started doing it. My mother-in-law is doing it. So now it's like, and then my sister, I think, is going to start doing it, which I'm super excited about. So I've just seen like a whole shift in my family just from me starting it and posting what I'm doing. And then all of a sudden they're texting me. They're like, hey, I'm going to do it,
Well, that's awesome. And that's the best way, really. You can't drag people kicking and screaming. You've got to just be the example. And, you're such a good example for people online and for your family. You're making a ripple in the pond, and it's affecting a lot of people all over. So make sure you guys follow Jordan's So Keto on Instagram. There's no like dashes or anything. It's just Jordan's.
All one word.
And Jordan's So Keto, and I'll put that in the description below. And if this video has been helpful, make sure and subscribe and ring the bell so you'll get the notifications every time I have somebody new on, like Jordan. So thank you so much for joining us, Jordan. Is there anything else you want to say before we go?
Just do it. Don't question it, man. Just do it.
Awesome. Well, thanks again. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.